As a woman, if you're married to a politician, a high-class businessman, an influential man of God, a lecturer, or a top military personnel, then you have a lot of work to do. Do you know why? Then you should watch till the end. Meet Grace. She's the wife of an influential man of God, as I mentioned earlier, and she is the case study here. Grace wakes up by 4 a.m. every morning ever since she got married to him to make sure everything is in place for her husband before he sets out for the day. Then comes the man of God, Pastor Bezalel. He is the general overseer of his ministry. But if there is one thing we all can attest to about these kinds of men is the fact that they are disciplined and intolerant of wrong behaviors. Sometimes Pastor Bez takes his breakfast when he is in his right frame of mind before leaving for work, and other times he angrily leaves for work without eating, especially when his wife behaves wrongly. The question is, should he also be so intolerant towards his wife like she is an outsider? Grace is a full-time wife, and her duty is to clean the home and make sure that every single meal she serves her husband is freshly made. Everything about the man of God is time-oriented, as his lunch must be brought to his office at exactly 1 p.m. The only time Grace sometimes has for herself is when her husband decides that he doesn't want her to bring his lunch to the office. It's the only opportunity she has to call her friend Tady to come stay company with her pending when it's evening time to make another fresh meal for dinner. Tady isn't happy with how caged her friend has become, all in the name of marriage. Grace understood that she's a pastor's wife, and it comes with a huge task. But, for real, is she truly happy with her marriage? Perhaps if she had given him children. But how can she get pregnant when her husband barely touches her? She literally has to beg him to sleep with her. Probably because he is a man of God, so it makes it look as if sex is a sin in the sight of God even with his wife. Now, how will you feel as a woman when you discover that your husband, who you believe to be a no-nonsense man, is a moron to another woman? As bad as it may sound, Ngozi is pregnant for him. Or could it be that the sudden change in his behavior is because of his happiness of becoming a father soon? Another thing to ponder about is how Ngozi talks to him in mannerless ways, without an iota of respect to him, even as a man of God. This is something his wife wouldn't dare to do. Maybe I was right when I called him a moron. Bez is back home and has put on again his attitude of a no-nonsense man that he is known for by his wife. Meanwhile, Grace got advice from her friend earlier that day on how seductive she should dress to catch the eye of her husband. But to be honest, this man is something else. That night, while at sleep, Ngozi called Bez to tell him that his presence was highly needed at her place due to her pregnant condition. He had no choice other than to obey. Grace was already awake by the time he came back, so he lied that he was going to have a deliverance session with a church member who has spiritual problems and needs the urgent intervention of the man of God. The most self-confident pastor we all know has become a cook in his mistress's house. That night, he prepared cassava jam with a tasty soup for her. Ngozi already had lost her appetite since the food preparation was delayed. She would prefer that he made her fried rice with plenty of peppered meat. That's if he wants to set his eyes on his child again, and if not of the importance the child is to him. She would have gotten rid of the child long ago. You can imagine the level of threat. It's 6:45 a.m., and as usual, the no-nonsense man of God is back from where he went to cast out demons. Grace welcomed him, and he gave a lackadaisical response to his wife. But she seemed to be tired and had to open up to Bez that he should be free to let her know if he was tired of the marriage. She knows that her childlessness has a toll in their marriage, and if he's seeing someone else, he should let her know. I guess those words sank into Bez. It is the usual 4 a.m. routine for Grace the next morning. Bez had just realized that he hasn't been fair to her, and he's willing to do better to restore the happiness and friendship their home once missed. Grace is happy again that her home is restored. She could feel her husband's love and care again after she thought she had lost it. Everything was under control again for Grace until Ngozi showed up one evening. She felt her unborn child wasn't receiving enough fatherly touch, so she has come to live under the same roof with him as his wife she's becoming. Grace was in short of words, as if all her worries of her husband bringing in another woman due to her childlessness were coming to reality. Grace somehow accommodated her, not until she found out that Ngozi's mission was to take over her home. It's unbelievable to find women as patient as Grace still existing. She quietly left her and went to sleep in the guest room. The sudden peace she thought she had was dashing into thin air again. Funny as it may sound, Pastor Bez has become a cook also in his home. Could he be this good at cooking and subject his wife to prepare freshly made food for every meal? That was cruel. Perhaps he deserves what he got from Ngozi. She specifically asked for pounded yam with melon soup, but that was a while ago. Now she wants spaghetti. Most men don't know what they have until they lose it. Ngozi made sure she had a hold on everything that happened in the house. Tady came visiting, and Ngozi made the living room uncomfortable for Grace and her friend. Her attitude really got into Tady that she almost retaliated, but Grace tried to calm her down while they moved to the kitchen. It didn't stop there. Ngozi came into the kitchen for more trouble. Tady was still furious about the scene she made in the living room when Ngozi came into the kitchen again to make trouble. Tady couldn't hold it anymore and wanted to speak her mind, but Ngozi was also prepared. It almost got into a fight as Grace made sure it didn't sprout out into something else. Bez tried to explain to her that he never loved Ngozi, and it just happened once as a result of the falling of the man of God from the grace of anointing during a private counseling with her. Everything seems to be changing now as Bez could feel the importance of his wife's 4 a.m. routine, but she still maintained her role as a wife by making sure he had breakfast before leaving. Bez truly felt this act of contrition in his heart as he felt pity for his wife. He left without having breakfast. Later that afternoon, Grace brought his lunch since he didn't eat in the morning. She told him to send her parking, but Bez promised that once she delivers the baby, she will leave the house. Grace faced humiliation in her home as though she was a maid. Her patience and faith was truly put to test. Could this be a blessing in disguise? Because in the law of honor, when you really wish for something, you must be willing to serve someone who has that thing, if you want that which you have been praying for to manifest in your life. It got so degrading that Ngozi seems to get away with everything. She no longer wants the master's room but prefers the guest room. She told Grace that it was her turn to perform her duty as a wife to her husband. This was becoming unbecoming to Grace, and she wanted her out. It resulted in an argument which escalated to get Bez's attention. Bez had to plead with Ngozi to give her her space, which she agreed to. Grace got angry and cursed him. Well, to an ordinary man, it may mean nothing to him, but to a man who has grown spiritually, he understands the implications of what was about to happen. Bez had to go on his knees to plead for her forgiveness. Bez was still trying to plead for the damages he caused, until Ngozi brought a pot of rice and poured it on the bed. Since she can't sleep there, no one else will sleep there. This is what happens when you allow the devil into your home through infidelity. After much thought and weeping, Grace finally gave up the ghost after much torment in the hands of her husband and his mistress. Ngozi kept mocking her to leave. Bez does not deserve a barren witch like her. At that moment she said those words, she felt a sharp abdominal pain. Grace thought she was joking until she saw how serious it was becoming. Grace tried to help and called the doctor. The doctor assured her that she was fine and all she needed was rest. Ngozi realized that with all she had done to the innocent lady, she still had a kind heart to help her in her condition. She felt Grace didn't deserve everything that was happening to her and asked for Grace's forgiveness. To Grace, her apologies weren't necessary again because she was already leaving. Bez rushed in quickly when he got the news to know how she was doing. Ngozi wanted him to go after Grace because she was about to leave his house. He wouldn't let her leave, and he is ready to do anything for her to stay, even if she wants Ngozi to leave the house. Ngozi realized that she had become the devil in her peaceful home. She pleaded for mercy and will give her the child once she gives birth, never to return to her home again. And to answer the question, these kinds of men are vulnerable to society, and it's your duty as a wife to protect his crown because every bitch out there is desperate to take your position. All thanks to Grace's tolerance. Thanks for watching. Please comment your thoughts and also like and share this video for more super amazing videos that we are bringing to you. And if you're watching from our YouTube channel, you can also subscribe and turn on your notification for more. Thank you.